The basic thing is this. When I was out there seemingly doing drugs and then not doing drugs and going to spirituality, there was always an urge to have freedom, yes? But the dilemma was I was trying to be free as what I was not. That was the main, that's the thing, that's the undercurrent, or for me, it's the initial dilemma. Is we're usually receiving life and living life from a false reference. Yeah, like a great master, Ramana Maharshi, puts it very succinctly, and a term I use, which is selfing. Really, this is the essence of it, which is there's a presupposing. Yeah, a presupposing. So a supposing is like an assuming. Yeah, like a simple example. I had some talks to do in Toronto and then back east. Yeah. So the Toronto people sent me, North Carolina people sent me the information. I sort of saw it, but then a day or two later I assumed that it was a different date I was supposed to be in North Carolina. Yeah. Now I didn't look back on the emails they sent me. I was so sure that I was supposed to be there October 8th and 9th, I planned the whole rest of the trip based on that assumption. Then, about a week before, after I bought all the tickets, non-refundable and everything, I went back and looked at those emails, and they hadn't changed. They were exactly what they said at the first place, which was, you're supposed to be there October 1st to 2nd. I just assumed it was the 8th and 9th, yeah? So my life sort of was based on that, and I didn't want to, I thought I'd go to Canada and then come back for 2 weeks, which would be pretty nice, and rest and go back. But now I only had 4 days. So I was going to go to Canada, come back, and then go back east again. And I was totally sure, if you would have asked me what dates you had to go to North Carolina, I would have swore it's the 8th and the 9th. So I was just assumed it, everything was based on it, but it was incorrect. And the information was there, I just didn't read it. You know, I had read it, but I assumed that it was some other day. So this presupposing is sort of like that, yeah? There's an assumption that the mental state produces that takes the place of what we are, seemingly. Like it can only appear to be true to what is, yeah? But if you believe it, it's going to seem to be so. Just like it seemed to be so that I was supposed to be in North Carolina the 8th and 9th when I had to be there the 1st and 2nd. The whole time before I went there, it seemed to be true that I had to be there a week later. Yeah? It didn't change anything, but it sure did in a sense. So this presupposing of a non-existent thing, wanting to get salvation for the non-existent thing, that's the rub. Yeah? So let's say you hear the message that you're not a body. How you're going to hear that message is as a body. Yeah? Just like the clone takes itself to be a human being. It has this whole history it's seemingly living under, because the corporation found that they work better if they have some kind of significance to their life. So they make up a wife and a kid, and they're a Boston Red Sox fan and all like this. I was at the World Series 1993, and they have pictures and they supply a lot of data, but really they're a clone, yeah? So what happens is the clone is confronted with indisputable evidence that it's a clone. Now that would be pretty good in a way. A clone realizes it's a clone. You know, it's probably actually pretty clear. Then it would be a clone, and that would be it. Yeah. But how it hears the message it's a clone is from the human programming. The human programming is the first bit that goes up. So when it hears the message, you're a clone, boom, the human program hears it. Now, the human program is going to have a different reaction than the clone would to the idea that it's a clone. The human programming may not be happy that it's a clone. Yeah, the human programming going, holy fuck. You know, what about my wife? What about my house? All like this. Yeah, it could be devastating, not to the clone, but to the human programming, which in this case is seemingly taken to be the clone. Yeah. So this is the whole point. You practice anything, that practicing is going to imply the practitioner. You read the course, you're going to be the reader of the course. You do the course, you're going to be the doer of the course. The mental state is going to take advantage of whatever it comes in contact with, and it's going to use that to imply there's a you. Yeah? So the simple old one we used to use, the first video we ever did years and years ago, was the sheep and the lion. It's an old story from Hinduism, but I like it. So there's a lion, and she has a cub, and they're hanging around the savannah and stuff, and then she dies. She gets killed. So now the cub is on its own. It's roaming around. It doesn't know who it is, what's going on, and it sees a herd of sheep. So it runs towards the herd of sheep. Now the sheep recognize it as a lion, so they start running away, and they're getting a little, hey. But then they realize the lion doesn't even know it's a lion. It's just walking around, it wants to ingratiate itself to the herd. So reluctantly, the sheep let it in, and now it starts living like a sheep. Yeah, so now they curl its hair, and it's barring, and it's like grazing, and it's not that happy. It's not that satisfied. But hey, it doesn't know any better. Hey, I'm a sheep. I'm going to make the best. I'm going to make the best out of it. So it does really well as a sheep, and it gets appointed the mayor of the sheep herd, and it marries and has sort of weird sheep kids, let's say. And then one day, it's just hanging around with the herd, or the flock, whatever they call them. And a big lion comes in the savannah and starts chasing the sheep. So it's running after the sheep, and it sees this lion running, and it thinks, oh, a lion's joining me on the hunt. But it realized the lion's running with the sheep. So it takes a detour, grabs the lion. The lion rolls over. The young lion goes, please, Mr. Lion, because it's heard about lions. Please, Mr. Lion, don't eat me. I'm just a humble sheep. Now, the big lion doesn't say anything. It just grabs it, drags it to this water hole, and sticks both their heads over. The young lion sees the reflections, bammo, yes, ding. It didn't take any time for it to realize it was a lion because it never had been a sheep. Yeah? There was nothing that needed to be undone because it had actually never been completed. It never became a sheep. It just assumed it was a sheep. It lived as if it was a sheep, yeah? It called its thoughts sheep thoughts, its actions sheep actions, yeah? It ingratiated itself into that whole place because it didn't know any better. And as soon as it saw its reflection and matched it with the big lion, it got it. Then the big lion goes roar, and it roars right away. It doesn't have to take 3-month classes of roaring classes. It doesn't have to practice to become a lion. That whole path is now dismissed completely by instant recognition. Didn't take any time. As soon as you saw the reflection, bammo, it was a lion. And then immediately, it had never roared in its freaking life. It was, all its roaring had been stifled by trying to bar all day. So it roars, yeah? This is what it's like. And why isn't it available, seemingly available? Because we're still looking for it to be available to us. And the us that we're taking ourselves is not us. Yeah? And the mental state, I'm telling you, like there was an old, you ever hear of Trungpa Rinpoche? He was an old Tibetan dude. Alcoholic, actually, too. So he had a famous book called Cutting Through Spiritual Materialism. The first page says, the first sentence really basically says, listen, the first thing you need to know is that the ego, and I don't like the term ego, let's call it selfing, but that the selfing will take advantage of everything it comes in contact with. So the mental state, whatever is arising, that it becomes conscious of or sentient about, it's going to claim that which is arising and use it to point to the one it's arising to or arising from. This is the bondage of self. This is what Ramana Maharshi would say, some of his disciples would say, is the problem. The problem is this presupposing of a non-existent thing, this, yes? And then wanting to get salvation for the non-existent thing. Now, in hindsight, I saw in my life all the freedom that I was trying to attain as that idea of being a self, yeah? I was trying to get the freedom through that, for that, as that, and by that, yeah? The real freedom is from it, yeah? So if you see what you're not, it's sort of like when the lion, not knowing what it is, sees that it's not a sheep, the failback mechanism is it's a lion. Yeah? I mean, all it has to see is what it's not, and then there's a recognition, not as something other than yourself, but as what you are, an intimation that you are the seeing of what you're not. And then really, that's that. Yeah? then what happens is the mind, constantly being put into this slavery of entertaining everything that's always about you, usually in the fields of yesterday and tomorrow, gets relieved of that fucking preoccupation, yeah? And now your interest and attention, which can produce anxiety, enslave you in yesterday and tomorrow, right at this very moment, will enrich this moment. Because you'll finally be in the moment, yeah? And the beautiful thing is, it wasn't through any effort or chore, because you have a realization it's impossible for you to be out of a moment, yeah? So you get out of what you thought you were in, not by escaping, but realizing the impossibility of being in it. That's how it works. Yeah? If you think you get out of something, out of a place, if there's an in that you want to get out of, and if you get out of it, that's actually a bigger form of the in that you seem to have got out of, because you're going to get back in it again, and then you'll want even more to get out of it, and on and on and on and on and on. But what would happen if you realized that which you've been trying to escape from was an imaginary place? What would be called upon you to do? And how long would it take? Exactly. That's it. Then these cryptic statements of like, you are what you're looking for, start making sense. I mean real sense. Yeah? Or the seeker is the sought, or the warnings that whatever can be perceived cannot be perceiving. That just clears out a lot of pieces off the game board, yeah? So whatever can be perceived cannot be perceiving. So you are not seeing. And in the Course they said seeing is like a sense. That's what it is, an intimation, a sense. That's what seeing is. Not eye, not vision, seeing, awareness, yeah? So the point is, if the mental state takes maybe 500 of a second to arise in time. So when something, it's like they say in these, all this new neuroscience stuff, they said whatever is observed is distorted by the observation of it, yeah? So that's the role we play. We play both seeming roles. Sometimes we're the observed, like the thoughts all day. Sometimes we're the observation. But whatever the hell's going on, there's a large distortion happening. As soon as we turn and look at something, that something we looked at has been neutered or changed, yeah? So how are you going to get out of that by not realizing you're not in it? It's the only way. You can't, if you attempt to use that which you think you're in to get out, that's being in it, yeah? It's sort of like you take a 2-year course, how to get over the obsession with self. That could be construed as obsession with self. So you get, every door seems to be locked, which is great, because it says in the Course once, I'm paraphrasing a little bit, what can a failed system show you? What can it show you? That it's a failed system. That's exactly its value, yeah? So if you've been looking a certain way, called self-centeredly, which means everything is seen as how it pertains to you, as what you're not, yeah? If that looking is what is being used to look for what's seeing, you're going to be blind to it, because that which is looking at that very moment, which is the seeing, is what you're looking for, like St. Francis said. What's looking is what you're looking for. He didn't say who's looking, he said what's looking. What's looking is the seeing. There's no the seeing, it's seeing. Yeah, it's aware, whatever you want to call it. So that what we're looking for here is what's looking. And if we are that, how can we be taking so much fucking time to find it? If we're looking for what's looking and we are what's looking, something's off. It's like when I was a kid and when we went to Catholic school and they told us those 3 things about God, pounding it in every Sunday, every confirmation class, whatever. It's omnipotent, all right, he's all powerful. Omniscient, all-knowing, omnipresent, everywhere. Then how the hell aren't you running into it? How are you avoiding it with such incredible dexterity for all these freaking years, to the point where it becomes a topic you want to try to get or know? And basically, if you go the route of knowing God, all you're going to end up is being a knower of God. It's still an emphasis on the selfing. Like Ramana says, to know God is to be God. Yeah? What? And if you are that, how long would it take? No time. And if something is imaginary, you don't have to go back and see if it's alive again. It's imaginary. Yeah? You got out of something that you were never in. That's why it doesn't take any time. And the whole idea of the moment, getting into the moment, is totally based on this insane idea you could be out of a moment. There's not one moment you've ever been out of. Yeah. Why? All the effort to get into the moment is really reinforcing an insane idea you could be out of the moment. Yeah. And what happens if you believe you achieve through arduous work getting into the moment? You also conversely believe if you slack, you're going to be out of the moment. That ain't fucking freedom. That's slavery. Books and statements and talks are just touchstones. These talks have never been directed at anybody. Because I realized very early, to talk to you about mind is fucking pointless. It's pointless. Because it's just going to be neutered. As soon as you think you hear it or get it, you're going to entertain you've lost it someday. Because that's what happens. People feel great, they're here, they go home and think about it. It's like a stillborn. It died in the process of you trying to make it something. But the message is being sent over your head. Yeah? Because you ever see the Buddha with 1,000 arms? The mental state is like that. The mental state has like 1,000 mitts. It will catch everything that's fucking thrown. It's like, this is almost like you're sending sperm to the fucking egg. Yeah? Millions of them get released. Maybe one makes it because the mental state, I got it. But hopefully just one gets in, one gets through. And then the mind conceives a possibility. What is that possibility? I'm not that. As soon as it says I'm not that, basically that's that. Yeah. Because if something's appearing to be so, it has to be appearing to be so to what so? How could something appear to be so unless it appeared to be so to what so? Like we said in the Course, takes it right there. You and I give everything all the meaning it has. That's a very comprehensive statement. Everything and all are pretty absolutes. Yeah. So if false evidence appears real, it has to appear real to what's real, which is us. Yeah. And if something false evidence, like I'm going to be fucked next week, let's say, but not in a nice way, a little, bad way. I'm going to be screwed next week. Yeah. Now there's no evidence really. Yeah. So it's false evidence because it's not happening. You're not seeing it, hearing it, feeling it, tasting it. But then there's a belief in it, and that belief coming from us can produce an effect now. You will contract on this Saturday, not based on anything that's happening in this Saturday. That's like a miracle to me. I always use the example of Lazarus getting resurrected by Jesus, but Lazarus at least was alive. We're making shit out of nothing all day. We are thinking of, we're not thinking. There's thoughts about next week, and there's a sense that they're our thoughts, and therefore we're very, very interested because it's about us. You're not going to follow Stanley's thoughts about 2024. You're not. You have no interest in it. Because why? It's not because the thoughts aren't interesting. They're not. You're not Stanley. The only reason why our attention keeps going in yesterday and tomorrow is because we believe it's about us. If it wasn't about us, we'd have an built-in immunity to it, which I have an immunity to you. You can be flipping out about next week. It doesn't jump off of you onto me because I'm not seeing it, hearing, feeling it. And thank God I'm not thinking it as my thoughts. And the whole point is, it has nothing to do with the thoughts because the same thoughts driving you crazy, if I was holding them as mine, they could have the ability to drive me crazy. It's not the thoughts. It's the sense of being the owner of the thoughts. Yeah? That's where the mental process steals our juice, basically, and diverts it into its interpretation through the bridge of mind. So basically, the thoughts are held as yours or about you. Yeah? So now every thought is used to point to the imaginary you, deemed the thinker, let's say, or the thought about. Exactly the same things with feelings, exactly the same things with actions, exactly the same thing with time. Time is time. My time is precious, Or like, I wish everyone here has tons of money, but I don't want you to have any of my money. It changes everything, the word mine. Yeah, it changes everything. And that's our role here. That's what the mental state is doing. It can't, in a way, it alters, it doesn't change the word itself, but it changes the meaning of it and the weight of it. Not by changing, like putting a capital M, nothing. The word money is the same, but the mind changes its whole meaning. That's the mental state. That's the burglar. That's the heist. You see it. And if you see it, right? If you're looking from it, it seems like a fact. If you're seeing it, it's an activity. And if it's an activity, what happens with activities? They can be stopped, yes? So now you see, and basically you see what you're not. An assumption, a presupposing, an inference, an implication, but there isn't anything there. Yeah? And in that relief, the mind, all the bridges to all these activities, thinking and feeling and acting, they get broken, so now the meaning can't get into the thought. Yeah? The meaning doesn't get into the feeling. The meaning doesn't get into the action, so those actions can't be like the ink that your head uses to tattoo you with it, yeah? They're all henna, they wash off, they're not like ink. Like the Course would say, correction and sin. The ego or the selfing would see a mistake as sin because he can get a lot of traction out of that. Bammo, you can't wash this off, so you gotta hide it, get guilty about it, yeah. But I'll tell you, the difference between thought and your thought is the definition of what I call traveling lighter. Yeah? The thoughts happen, feelings happen, actions happen, but they're not happening to you or as you anymore, and that's where the relief is. It's not like I live with no thoughts. I don't take any actions. I just sit at home all day. That would be an action. Yeah. No, all that shit happens and happens, but thank God it's not happening to me. So you're here because you can't be anywhere else. It's not like, oh, I made it up to the mountain and then you're going to be tons of adulations come to you. It's like ordinary dog shit awakeness, really. You're just awake to being awake. And now next week and last week loses their influence over you. I mean, and then by the loss of the influence, you see your role in it, really. You see your role in it all. You see your role as the dreaming when the dream starts changing quite a lot. With no fucking tractors or bulldozers, just things fade on their own. All the hard lines start bleeding into one mural, yeah? Not living little Kodak pictures, it's just one fucking event. No beginning, no end, it's all verbing, there's no noun to be found. All that happens. You can't take courses for that shit. You're the chalkboard where it's being written through. Yeah? You're like the living scripture. You read something, it triggers an avalanche, but you're the fucking snow. Yeah? The book isn't, the shit isn't, that isn't. Yeah? Let it go. You're entertaining anyway all day. You can entertain dead preoccupations, or it can be enriching. Faith is a force of mind. Faith, humbly, is a force of mind, big M mind. And faith is going to manifest here by the vehicle it's put in. So as a big example, you could see the faith in a thought system is the cause of anxiety. Yeah? It's what seems to water the imaginary field. It's what seems to tend to the imaginary field. That which isn't ain't, but it can sure seem to be to that which is, and that's faith. Now if that faith, and to me, like the Course would say, it's in a way surrender and let the Holy Spirit direct it, because when the mental state's directing the faith, it's going to put it into yesterday and tomorrow. You're going to be more influenced by yesterday and tomorrow than you are by today. Yeah. And most people, if you're bummed out, it's never about today, it's about yesterday and tomorrow. That's all faith. It's all faith derived. Yeah. Now, if that faith was redirected, you could see it would enrich your day right now. You'd have an ease and comfort in your seeming circumstances and situations. Yeah. You would be able to, comprehend the word serenity, entertain peace. This stuff would become available to you because it's always been available as you. So this is all about seeing what you're not. If you call it anything, it's more of a negation. Because if you don't, the person there's going to be a hearing that you're not a body as a body. And then it can go to such an absurd length that you'll try to be a non-self, but as a self. And then you'll think the whole evidence is experience, when it has nothing to do with experience. It has nothing to do with experience. It'll influence all your experiences, but it's not an experience. You cannot experience what you are. It's impossible. The only point of availability you have of it is being it. That's it. There's no down level. There's, if I know it, then I'll jump into being of it. No, it's like an impassable chasm between knowing and being. You know what you're not. You can study what you're not so that you'll forget what you're not and stop calling it you. Seriously, like Dogen, a great Zen master from Japan, said, to study Buddhism is to study the self. And to study the self is to do what? To forget it. Because if you study the self, you'll see it's not you. And as soon as it's not about you, you're going to forget it. Just like you'll forget it. If there's a girl I want to know biblically, let's say, in that other room, and they're having a meeting, and I'm sitting here, and I'm supposed to be doing this, but my attention's in there, because she means a lot more than any of you to me, because I got plans for her. She's going to be my little salvation. So I'm really keen on listening to her, what she's saying when she's talking to her friends, because I'm hoping she'll go, hey, I like that guy Paul, because I want the bet to be hedged, I don't want to fucking get disapproved of or rejected, so no. I want to see if I have good odds with it. So I'm keen, and people are going, Paul, you don't seem like you're here today. And I said, yeah, I know, but I can't seem to call the troops back in, because that's much more important than this. And then someone comes up to my desk and puts a book down. I think you should read this, Paul. And it's like, How to Lose Conversations in Another Room. So, but I believe it, but I can't help it. And then suddenly the girl goes, I really like that guy Matt, and my name is Paul. What happens? I lose interest in that conversation. I don't have to send Navy SEAL 6 team in there to retrieve my interest. It just goes, it just immediately leaves it, because it's not about me. That's what happens. When you see all that's been used to point to and be about you is not about you, you'll lose interest in those faculties. You'll lose interest in the intent that they're being used for. Yeah? They're all being used to point to the one. All the thoughts are being used to point to the thinker. All the feelings are being claimed to point to the feeler. All the actions are bringing you into the court of the mental state to get convicted of what you've omitted or committed in this life. And you're it. You're the judge. You play all the roles. You're sentencing yourself in a sense. When you see it's all imaginary, it's all huffing and puffing, blowing down imaginary houses, that whatever you ever thought you did that was the worst thing in the world has left absolutely no effect on what you are. Not even a tiny little imprint. Like here, you're in today, the sky is letting all this shit to happen in it, and yet it's not affected by anything that's happening in it. If it was raining, the sky wasn't getting wet, is it? A shooting star doesn't burn the sky. You have 4th of July explosions. Do they rip the sky open? Planes are flying through it all day. They're never calling the tower. I ran into a big chunk of sky up here. Warn everyone. No, it can hold zillions of clouds, and the sky never turns into a cloud. It can have thousands of clouds. It can have a weather front, but it's still not the weather front. Yeah? Because the weather front breaks, and there's the sky, completely untouched by all the shenanigans. Now, we assume the sky is dark, but the sky isn't dark. The sky is space. That's what our mind is like, big M mind, like space. Nothing has ever happened that left any impression on it. All the planes that have flown through the sky left a deep groove that you see for years? Was that one cloud just tenaciously held to be the same cloud that looked like a dog for 3 weeks? It's in the same place every morning. There it is. It's the most sustained cloud I've ever seen. It's holding on to its puppiness or whatever. As soon as the sun hits it and the air hits it, it disperses. It's imaginary. It has no coagulation. It has no substance. It's like the difference between entertaining from the problem and entertaining from the solution is incredibly different. Because if you're entertaining this message from the problem seems to be a fact. If you entertain the problem from the solution, it's shown not to be a fact. If it's a fact, it makes a lot of sense that you're going to get some heavy movers in. A lot of shit has to happen. This is tenaciously dug in. We're going to have to dig it out and purify it. That's the thing. We're going to have to purify for thousands of years to fucking get ready to receive what I already have. But if you see it for what you are, it's an activity that you're in cahoots with completely, actually. Yeah. So you see that everything is dreaming, so everything is happening, but in fact, nothing ever happened. Like they say now in the brain studies, when you remember something, all you remember is a memory of it. You never go back to any event. In a way, you could say, did any event ever happen? You have no real idea. Because every time we go back, I'm going to go back to Boston in 2012, it's a memory of Boston. You never go back because I don't think anything fucking ever happened. See, someone sent me a nice email yesterday. See, we recognize we're dreaming at night because we take ourselves to be someone who's dreaming in the awake state. Yeah? So in the comparison, we can go, that's a dream. But in this, we have no comparison. The comparison we've already neutered, which was the night dreams, because we think, oh, that's a dream, and now because this has more continuation, more time involved, that this is the reality, because we don't have anything else to compare it with. So we neuter the comparison, which would have been the night dream. Every night dream's showing you everything, but we go, oh no, I had that. See, I had that dream. So that's neutered. And then this isn't a dream, because I would wake up from it. But the point is, you're already awake. The idea that we're not awake is of time. The realization that we are inherently awake is timeless. So we are already awake. Yeah? We just don't think so. And the emphasis is on the think. There's no way you could entertain this without thinking. Without thoughts, and I'm not saying they're yours, I'm saying without thoughts, there's no way in hell this would sustain. So now you can have a nice latte today. You can, don't do anything. Or do a lot. The pressure's off. You can't really be exiled from where you are, and therefore you can't ever be dropped into where you are, because it's impossible to not be here. And if you want to see, look at your day. You're seeing right now, yes? Are you making any effort to see? Mm-hmm. You are? No, you're seeing, yeah? If your eyes are open, you're going to see. If I moved, you'd see whatever else was here, yeah? And you're hearing, yeah? Did you take a hearing class today? You're hearing and seeing, yeah? No. Did we, you're tasting, you're touching, seemingly without any discrimination, yeah? Discrimination comes later, doesn't it? You see something, and then what comes later goes, oh, I didn't really want to see that. But you saw it already, yeah? So the seeing, the hearing, the feeling, the tasting, touching in my sense, doesn't exhibit any thought or effort, does it? I mean, if your eyes are bad, then it would be difficult, but it's not the seeing, it's the eye, it's the faculty. So why would you believe that thought and effort would get you to there, which doesn't demonstrate any thought or effort? The basic of all our day is seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching, and not one of us have taken a class on it. We're totally so proficient at it, we don't even notice it. Yeah, and it's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling that when my eyes open, huge distances are traversed with no time at all. I see miles away, like this. I'm going to see miles away. 5 miles, 7 miles, 9 miles. No, none of that. It's the thing that goes totally underappreciated. No discrimination, no prejudice, no this or that. It's just seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching. What? I mean, it's amazing. It's going so unnoticed. If you just let your attention, well, you can't let it. That's the whole point of the mental state. It wants your attention and interest to be put into imaginary places, because it would become so fucking obvious to you what's happening if your interest and attention was actually here, not on another mental chore looking for a fairy princess or something else, you know. If it was just resting here and just in it wasn't focused by the mental state, you'd sense presence. You would sense what you're calling a place you want to get to. You would sense the electric aliveness of being on. Yeah. Which can override all the imaginary shit like that. You are the immunity. You are the immunity to thought. You are the immunity to everything, really. So, we have it in recovery, the statement, self can't get out of self. So, if you follow it, how could something be the solution and the problem? It would be only through identification. So if the solution was identified as something that it's not, that would be the problem, yeah? If it was seen it wasn't that would be the solution. So really the root of the dilemma is an act of being identified as a self. That's what's going on, yeah? The mental state has a firm belief in it as being true, and it verifies it with memory and perception all day. But basically, it's an act of being identified as a self, as a long-lasting, independent, separate entity, a thinker, a doer, a haver, a feeler. Yeah? That becomes the presupposed condition, that's our inherent condition. And then it can go to such insane lengths that you will start looking for yourself as that. Yeah? So that will become the blindness we run into. Because if the lion takes itself to be the sheep, and it hears the message, it's a lion, the best it can do with that is to become like a sheep, or to become like a lion, yeah? So the sheep will still be stubbornly what it's taken to be, and it will work hard now to become like a lion, all the while being a lion. When the shenanigans stops, it's not going to take any time for it to arrive at being a lion, because it's always being a lion. So whenever it stops, it's going to be introduced to the always being a lion. So it's not going to take any time, because it's always being a lion. So once the shenanigan stops, there isn't a big lull where now you've got to work towards getting back to being a lion as a lion. You don't, yeah? Boom, you roar, boom, you're a lion. And when it dawns on you, it reveals that you've always been a lion, and that basically nothing ever really happened. That's one of its downloads, yeah? If it dawns on you, you realize it's never not been this way. There was dreaming, really. And I like to use that statement in the Course, that you and I are the dreaming of this dream. They say the dreamer, but I don't like nouns. So you and I are the dreaming of this dreaming. We forget that we're dreaming, then how the hell does that seem to happen? I believe it's identification as the dreamt, yeah? And what in that condition, now the dreaming as the dreamt now gives everything it's dreaming the power to affect it. So that's our day. Thoughts can drive you crazy, can't they? One feeling can ruin your trip to Hawaii. One little aside, one person can look at you in a strange way. It gets your head started for 4 or 5 hours. You're emailing them and fucking cursing them on Twitter or something. They haven't even thought about you. This is what happens. We've given everything, that we're dreaming, all the ability to affect us as the dreamt. How are you going to get out of that as the dreamt? Maybe by seeing you're not the dreamt, that's the immunity. So instead of looking for what you want to find, just ask who is it that's looking for it. Maybe that's what you want to find. Yeah, why not? You've tried everything else. Might as well try nothing. See what happens. There's a great chapter in the course, I Need Do Nothing, where everything's going to lead to that one realization, I need do nothing. Why not start there? If all of them are going to, if they're worth their salt, are going to lead you to the realization, I need do nothing, why not start with nothing? All right, that's that. Any questions? No?
Is there any stuff, there's no will power. Is that true?
Well, if you think you have willpower, exert it.
Huh. If I think I'm a thinker.
Anything can happen here in the dreaming.
Okay.
You can make it seem to be so all day.
That answered the question.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Paul, when you say that in that moment that the lion knows that it's a lion, what is it that knows that? So, I know you're using pronouns.
Why would you want to know that if you are it?
Say again?
Why would you want to know that if you are it? If you are that which is seemingly knowing it's not what it's not, yeah, knowing what it's not, why would you want to know what it is?
I agree with that that in that moment there's no desire to know anything. I guess I'm trying to get the semantic distinction that you're using when you speak it.
I wouldn't do that. Just sense it.
Say again?
Just sense it.
I'm sorry, I'm not.
Sense what's being said. The words are just vehicles. They're not the important point. It's something that's attempting to be communicated, like mind, you know?
Okay, so you're referring to thousands of sperm and the one that
those
gets
are just, we're trying to produce an image, because if you see that which you're not as other, that's a good point.
Yeah,
Yes?
so what's happening here right now is this need to understand is showing up, which has been part of
that's our first mechanism of control.
Yeah, it's been part of the process.
It's
for
like
a
you
long
never
time.
see when they let the calf out in the rodeo and the guy runs and grabs it and fucking ties it up in 4 seconds. That's what we like to know. We want to know something. Yeah.
Thank you.
It's hard. Yeah, it's ahead, but we don't. See, that's the whole point. All the activities that have constantly been used to imply you, if you see them, and that suspension bridge isn't just taken for granted. You actually see the chasm between that which is being said and what you are. Yeah, you know what I mean? You really see it. More gets revealed. You see more and more of what you're not. And in that's what you are. Yeah. More and more, see, you can't be revealed, but what you're not can be revealed. So by seeing what you're not, there's a weird revealing of what you are, because your nature is to seeing, yeah? So in that nature of seeing, and what it's seeing is what it's not in appearance, yes? That's the vehicle for it to know what it is. It can't know what it is, but it gets, like a reflection. It's almost like a bumper shot in pool. Boom, you don't want to hit a ball, but you can't get to it. So bing, bing, yeah? So the seeing of what you're not, which is amply evidenced all day, will intimate what you are, because it will be, right now, we're in an act of being, yeah? So in the verbing of what we are, there's an intimation, yeah, of us, yeah, of what we are. There's an intimation, and the intimation comes about not by looking for it or studying it, but by seeing what it's not. Yeah. By seeing what it's not, there's a sense of what it is. Let's put it that way. Yeah. And then you realize that urge to want to know you, which is the drive of all drives, is an impossibility, because you would have to be something other than to know you. Yeah? So that's not available to us. So this mental urge to know is very strong, but it can't supersede being. Yeah? So the being is a whole other ball game than knowing. Yeah? But the knowing, in a lot of ways, has to exhaust itself because like the Course says, what can a failed system show you? So let's say a failed system of knowing, you can have 800 examples of how it works. Like, I know math, I know how to build an engine, I know how to make a latte, I know how to buy some pants, I know all this, I know how to climb up a mountain, right? But you can't apply that to what you are, because you're it. Yeah, so you can't know what you are. So the head story, hey, I've been knowing shit for a long fucking time, and I'm gonna apply it to this topic, which is what you are. But what you are ain't a topic unless it's made into something else, which is what it has. So now enlightenment, the pursuit of enlightenment, if you look at it, it's producing, when people are searching for enlightenment, it's producing the exact opposite of the definition of enlightenment, which is cessation of all suffering. They're having lots of mental suffering, thinking if they're enlightened or not. Or there's someone else that's enlightened and they're not. They're driving themselves crazy with the idea of enlightenment or awakening. Awakening is the same thing. People, they would have been much better off they never heard the fucking thing, awakening. You know what I mean? Because now it's another thing, oh, I gotta fucking wake up now. You know what I mean? Another chore on the list. All right, I've worked so hard, I understand myself. Now you say there isn't nothing, I'm not that. Okay, so the idea of words for me are just to produce a sense of otherness, because that's an easy thing to recognize. And once the mind sees, that's what happened with me. If you don't mind, I was talking, I used to do these workshops in recovery. And there was a chapter that I looked at every week, because 16 or 19 years, I taught this class every Monday night if I was in America. For about 16 or 19 years. So this one chapter, I looked at these sentences so many fucking times and riffed on them many, many times. And then things were catching up to me, so to speak, and I was looking at the statement, and I had never seen, because it wasn't the words. The treasure wasn't in the words were used by mind to unlock its own treasure. That's, it just used it. It could have been a cookbook, but it used this, yeah. So, and the sentence was this: being convinced, and then I looked up that word, and it means believe with certainty, which the mental state cannot do, because it's dualistically constructed. Yeah. So to believe with certainty, so being convinced that that self, self manifested in various ways, has defeated us. All right, this was an incredible thing, because I saw that statement self, and I saw it as a parasite or a foreign installment. Yeah. I had a complete hit of otherness to that which I was assuming and implying to be me for my whole life. It's just like, what? Yeah. So I saw it, and it says, all right, self manifesting in all these ways defeated us, and we're the us, seemingly. And then there's self, which to me is a foreign installment, really. Yeah. Like a parasite, parasitical movement. It's not a parasite, mental parasite. You can't take an X-ray of it, but it's very influential. All right. Then it goes, all right, if you're convinced of that, we will now look at how its manifestations have defeated us. And we'll look at some of its common manifestations, meaning selves. And everyone I knew dealing with this chapter kept calling the manifestations of self theirs. Every time they talk about resentment, it was my resentment, fear, my fear, my. And so I saw from the solution that the bondage is an activity that we're in cahoots with all day, listening and speaking the language. All day, the head is constantly assuming we have a lot to do with shit we have nothing to do with. And it's stating it flagrantly all fucking day, and everyone's just co-signing it, and we're on this little trance, we're like on a trance cruise, really. And our roommate is a hypnotist. We're being hypnotized all fucking day, yeah, by the language, by the thought center. As soon as I saw the my as an activity, because it's difficult, you're not going to see self, but you're going to see it by its manifestations. And the manifestation is claiming. That's what it does. It claims shit it has nothing to do with. So it claims the thought system and it presents itself as the thinker. It's actually claimed consciousness and says, I'm the one who's conscious. It just does everything. And I swear to God, its brazenness has no bounds because we never fucking wake up. It's just stealing the whole store. You know what I mean? And then we get left with the results. So so if the mind starts weakening, I'm telling you, your interest in thoughts will weaken because they're fucking boring as hell. You've been having the same thought. It's like a rotation. And then it creates a solar system with different planets. Instead of you're mad at Jill, it's Susan. So you think but it's the same thing. On and on and on and on and on. When the mind drops out, all those things move. Yeah? Because your space. Your space. Then you have a sense of availability. And when you're available, what are you available to? Presence. Because now you're not available to yesterday and tomorrow anymore, fucking more. Yeah? Now you're available to presence. So now you become, in all actuality, what you've been looking for. Not after you've been cleaned up and purified, just as you are right now, because you're not. You're not as you seem to be. So it finally happens, and when it starts dawning on you, I'm telling you, one of the main downloads is it's always been this way. And therefore, it negates the whole reality of the dreaming with one fell, because there's nothing even to cut down. It was imagining. It was an imagining. And then the imagining keeps going on, but now it's like an oasis. Yeah? You go to an oasis, you think there's water. When you find there's no water, you still see the oasis. But now you're not going in looking for water anymore. Yeah? It's not like an hallucination. It's more like this is more like an oasis. Yeah. But now something's changed. You're traveling lighter, and after a while of traveling lighter, I mean a nice bit of time, because time has its influence here. You'll see that's more than enough. Just to travel lighter is much more than fucking enlightenment and all this shit. Yeah. If you were content and satisfied right now, a whole lot would be seemingly different. Yeah, that seeking, that driving, that constantly, like for me, the Urban Renewal Project was canceled. As soon as I saw I wasn't this, it was the greatest day for the body. Because the body wasn't doing well as the center of the universe. It wasn't doing well being thought about constantly. It wasn't doing well having to be the best or the worst of everything. It was way too much pressure. It's like a Toyota. It's not a fucking, float at the Rose Parade. It's just utilitarian, gets me places, shit like that. But to be everything, was way too much. Now it's just it's got healthy again. I mean, as soon as that big mother mental hen got off of it, it thrived. Self-centeredness is like you're living like Saturn with a very, very strong ring of saran wrap. And all the downloads from the mental state are horizontal. They're all about yesterday and tomorrow. And you don't even see it because saran wrap is clear, but it's going to distort your vision. Yeah? And some of us have a lot of layers of saran wrap. Yeah? So with all the vertical insertion, we're not paying any attention to. We're just getting the story of this. So you feel like you're going into depression. The head goes, it's going to be a lifelong depression. You know what I mean? If you're having a good day, it goes, oh, it's going to suck them out. It shortens that, elongates that. Watch how your head thinks. When things are going good, you get nervous in about 10 minutes. When something goes bad, you think it's going to be a lifelong condition. You got to see the bias. Do you want that to be interpreting your life for you? Do you want that to be your tour guide? You're going to go to hellish fucking vacation spots. It's like a failed GPS. Check it out. It's got the maps from 1973. I used to follow it when I was out there using, really. I just wanted to be happy at night, so I'd say, all right, great one. I like to be happy, joyous, and free. So I said, all right, go to the bar, shoot some pool, drink some beer, cop some coke, go out to a club dance. And it all sounded pretty good until after the dance, I got asked to go to 850 Bryant, the police station in San Francisco. So then a day later, I get out of jail and I go, oh, I just want to have some fun. Click in, okay, map for fun, and take me to the same fucking places, and I end up in jail again. Why are you listening to it? It's because you think it's fucking you. If you took the you out of it, you would dismiss it. I'm serious. You get an upgrade. Really. That's my humble take on it. I've seen it. I've seen the whole fucking thing. I've seen the mental states. I've seen it from the snout to the tail. I've seen it. I suffered from it for years when I was out there. 10-day retreats on cocaine. Not eating, hallucinating my brains out, my head just going fucking crazy. I had a belief that if I could tighten it up enough and keep it that tight, it would snap and I'd transcend, but you can't transcend an imaginary place. And I'm telling you, I would match my drug devotion to any devotee in the world about any spirituality. Hanuman, the monkey, I was right up there with him. I gave everything to it, loved it, adored it, fucking anything, and I'm telling you, I may not have been the greatest meditator or this and that, so I don't know. Maybe you can meditate yourself out of the meditator, but I know one fucking thing. That path I took completely, and you cannot transcend an imaginary place. You cannot leave what you're not in. It's impossible. If the assumption is you're in it and you believe it completely and it seems to thwart you because you can't seem to get out of it and it doesn't stabilize, you may have been making a little perceptual mistake. You may be taking something that's not so to be so. And if that's the case, that'll be your answer. Yeah? If you stop trying to get out of an imaginary place, there you go. That's being out of the imaginary place. Yeah, your being out of the imaginary place is not an escape. It's the wisdom of a great book called The Wisdom of No Escape. There is no escape from an imaginary place. There's the solution. Yeah? So I'm finally completely Paul Hedderman and then freed from it. All the time since I was 6, I was trying to be un-Paul, and I was more Paul than ever. The more I tried to get out of Paul, the more Paul was fucking emblazoned everywhere.
So you don't occasionally fall into the trap of selfing?
There's a falling into trap, but it's not me. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
Yes, there's traps, there's this, there's that. But you haven't moved one bit. Yeah, yeah.
And, being present and we are what we are, just being is the truth, But when you say the truth to someone, they can't really absorb it. Like, you understand it because you experience simply being what you are. But when you say that to someone else, they're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, yeah.
And, what do you mean that's not me, right? Imaginary world, what is that? Like, what exactly am I not, right? So people kind of need that, like you said, vehicle, that knowledge, that tool to be able to understand what they're not first, to understand what they are.
Yeah.
But I think it's the understanding what we're not part is where people are stuck on, because they don't really understand that yet, so they don't know how to just be or be present,
And that's fine. Everyone has different seed assignments.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't mean a damn thing in the long run. It really doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
If you think you've missed it and stuff, when it dawns, see, if something that's always happening dawns, was it a dawning? It really wasn't, yes? It was always happening. So all the longing and all this and that gets dismissed because It had nothing to do with time or anything. This is just dreaming. Yeah? And look at what happens every night. Everything gets dismissed completely, doesn't it? You go to sleep, everything's dismissed. It's like your Etch-a-Sketch just gets shook up, and the next day you do this again. And it's like, these things, they can imply stuff to your mind. Yeah? I mean, if something, like for the example of the talks, we're doing the talks for so long, seemingly. One things I've noticed is maybe I have a lot of pressing issues that day, like bad knees or whatever.
Yeah.
And as soon as I sit down, all of that's dismissed. Yeah. There's no influence on it.
And you know how to dismiss it.
No, I don't dismiss it. It just gets dismissed.
But you work to that state to be able to just...
No, I didn't. I just was willing to be used. That's really what it was. Seriously. I was willing to be used, and I was used. Yeah. So with this, when this happened over and over and over again, my head entertaining it took it somewhere, which is, how could it have been real if it could disappear so quickly? Yes, and you start getting suspicious of this perceptual matrix. You seem to be, you seem to be in but not wanting to be in, but you're in. You're dreaming it, right? So you know what I mean? You'll get a lot of free samples, and if you don't put a period on it or don't close the book on it, it's going to reveal a lot. Yeah. Your mind, your raw mind, is a very, very, very fertile field. It doesn't need much to grow a huge crop. Yeah. All you got to do is hear something, and then have faith in mind. We don't have faith in what we call our mind, but that's the mental condition, which doesn't deserve faith. But that's one of the ways it neuters the real faith, that mind is available.
Yeah.
Because in faith in mind, much, much, much more gets revealed without much effort and thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. You just, so, yeah. That's it again for the second time. Any other question? Hope not. There's one more.
Well, yeah, we really identify with the intellectual center, and that's why, just being in the truth just really goes over our head, like you say. And you say that it doesn't matter in the long run if we're if we don't self-remember and remember
the
who we
best
really
thing
are.
that you can possibly do is fucking relax. Yeah, just like that. Seriously.
I'm saying, like, for those that are able to just be and just be
Well, no
present.
one is able to be, they are being. But they're being what looks like
But
an
it
insane
took- it took-
situation.
but it
But that's
took-
what they're doing.
Yeah, but it took the tools and the knowledge to have that understanding, right? Because between knowledge and being is understanding.
It doesn't have to be that way, but if your mind sets it up that way, that's how it will be. Yeah,
I mean,
but it
how
doesn't
many
have
people
to.
have you met that were just like, hey, I woke up the other day and I just am, and I will always just be. It's people
Well, they're
read
just
books
stating the
and
obvious,
people,
though. See, we hear it as something unique, but that's really the fact.
Yeah,
That's-
I know.
they've just
I
been being
totally
every day.
understand that. I know
Yeah.
100%. But that's where people, read books and follow all these spiritual pursuits because they don't know what to not know.
Yeah, well, we're trying our best, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm saying.
you too.
I
We're very
know.
persistent.
I'm just saying. The more you know what you aren't, the more you can be. And isn't that more than someone who completely is asleep and doesn't know that man, woman, positive, all that's not who I am.
Yeah. Well, as an invitation, I would say negation is probably, as an invitation, the best invitation. Because of the situation. If it's active being identified, you don't have to become like a lion. You just have to see you're not a sheep. And then you'll realize you are a lion. Yes, that's the basic format of negation in a way. There's a true sense in negation that you are what you're looking for. And the dilemma is you're looking for it as something you're not. And so the stubbornness of that gets addressed. And by entertaining that, there are methodologies, self-inquiry and stuff. You ask subjective questions like, who is it, and stuff like that. But basically, the point is that condition, the inherent condition is always available at all times. So even though in a mental interpretation you think something happened, if something happened that was always happening, how could it have been happening? You know what I mean? If something was water in a happening, and then you realize there's always been water. Well, there wasn't really much of a happening that it was water, because there's still that clinging that you were changed from something into something else, but you've never been changed at all. It's an impossibility. Yeah, that's where the real rest lies.
Got it.
The real rest lies in that. The real rest in trying to get in the moment is realizing you can't be out of the moment. That's where how rest. See, the same topic, if held differently, produces two different responses or reactions. One is I've got to do effort and this and that, and the other one is a relaxation. Yes? Yeah. So sometimes you'll hear a message, it sounds like an order, but it's really not. It's not an order. Yeah? It's just how you hear it. And basically how you hear is where you seem to be. Where you seem to be is not where you are. Yeah? But as the Course in Miracles says, you're gonna, as we're dreaming, this is a beautiful statement. We're the dreaming of the dream, and we're gonna dream, and we're dreaming ourselves out of the dream. And as we do, the dream will get happier. So you can see this event as part of that. Yeah? So here we are, we're seeming to be in this dream. That means it appears to be true or false to us. If there's no dream, there's dreaming, yeah? And the dreaming in one state seems to take it to be so. So the dreaming goes, hey, this is true. And then it creates all these effects. And then it goes, hey, I'm still a little tired of this. So, all right, now I'm going to dream myself out of the dream. So I'm going to use books, Course in Miracles, or Tao. I'm going to use meetings. I'm going to use whatever. And then I'm going to dream myself out of the dream. And what it's going to look like while that's happening is the dream will get happier. So a nice byproduct, you know? You know what I mean? So instead of getting rushed out of the door, you'll just sort of, go down, and then it'll be over. Isn't that relaxing? Doesn't that produce a relaxation? Like, oh, fuck. You know? So, and no matter what I'm doing, if surrendered, if you want to say that, in the Course it would be to the Holy Spirit, in recovery it's the higher power. But basically, all this stuff that's happening here is being directed, either by the mental state, or in the Course's view, it would be the Holy Spirit. So basically, you want to just give the minutiae of everything up. You can't, but you just open up to that possibility, and just be directed by something else other than the mental state. And how you can facilitate is by realizing you're not the center of the mental state, which is self. And how you realize that is not by trying to realize that, is by seeing what you're not, and then it dawns on you. Yeah. And now you got the horse in front of the cart instead of the cart in front of the horse, and things make sense. Yeah. And a lot of if I looked at me now from 30 years ago, this would be the thing Paul 30 years ago was trying to get out of all day. This was its worst nightmare. Being boring, irrelevant, nothing special, fucking, not on a police ledger today, or shot coke, none of that. It would be the last thing I'd want. And when I was full of spirituality, this would be recognized as totally unspiritual. Seriously, it would be the last thing that would be desired. It's sort of funny, it is. Because, I used to say, if you knew where you're going to end up, you would have canceled the trip, maybe. But it doesn't matter.
That if you only
it's
knew
more of a paring down and economizing, and you don't lose interest, you lose interest. There's a new direction of interest and attention, that's all. So now, what's interesting is the space that used to be the background, and now it's the foreground, and then all the things that used to be so fucking interesting is now the background. So, and to me that's the horse and the cart, that works, yes? So, yeah. And, I have very strong faith in this message, because when I heard it, it was like an unspoken yes, and in hindsight, it was the last answer, because I haven't looked for any answer in this area of expertise since. And it's all been about just entertaining the possibility it offered, where all the other possibilities that I had entertained were of time and very defined, and you were the main role in it all. This has, you have play a very minor role. It's not of time, and it's not of effort and thought. It's a different, totally different modality. Yeah. So you're being directed and being used. So, and I get a suntan in the process. So I went by the sun tanning salon. I don't have to go there because I get one here. See, this is how inclusive it is. Yeah.
You're happy.
I'm gonna get a latte, have some friends, everything. I don't have to do one or the other. It's all inclusive.
Tanning is free.
Tanning is free. Yes. I gotta. Now I'll look better when I see myself in the mirror. My head will give me a break a little bit. Maybe I can have a middle-sized latte instead of a small one. You know, I'll get a little prize. All right, we're gonna pass the basket. Yeah. And we're gonna be here